And snap! We've been waiting for this for a long time. When did they announce this? It was like 2017 or something. They told us we were getting a Mario movie. We've waited a heck of a long time. And it's been quite the saga. Most of that time was just, they were working. We didn't really know anything about it except that it was being done by Illumination. And then we had all the voice actor stuff, and that was fun. We've finally seen the movie. It's out. It's here. I've seen it. I have watched the Mario movie. I gathered up my group of video game movie adaptation watching guys, all people that you've longtime Arlo fans will have seen throughout the years. Your Nolan, your Chris, your Dan, your Brian, all of the faces you love. And we saw it. So it just goes without saying, but I just love my unnecessary intros. We all wondered from the beginning, from the very first moment they announced it, how do you make a Mario movie? How does that even work? It's a series of games without a lot of world building and story to it. How do you with characters that don't really talk a lot, how do you translate that to the big screen? Because of the weirdness of this and just how, how precious these characters and concepts are to us, I have had worries, as I think a lot of people do in this kind of situation. The initial trailers really did put to ease a lot of that. The movie, from the beginning, it looked pretty good. But there were still worries. So I want to go over my worries and then kind of address them, talk about how did that end up? Were the worries justified? But to set the tone of the review, just so it doesn't seem like I'm focusing so much on worries, I will say this is a good movie. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I will say that even a cynical worrywart like me, who's very particular about his movies, as we have learned in the past, even someone like that can sometimes be surprised. So there we go. Let's get to it. I worried about the whole real world origin thing. I've not been a fan of that from the beginning, and I know a lot of people have gotten on my case about this. You say oh, but it's always been that way. In the original cartoon, in the original movie, they're always from Brooklyn, and I know that. It's just that the Mario has evolved so far past those points that I figured, okay, well, there isn't a canon anymore. Mario is just kind of whatever. I didn't know if any of that was, you know what I mean? Because those are old concepts. I figured, just like we don't call him Bowser anymore, or we call him Bowser, we don't call him King Koopa. That's just an old thing. I thought those were old concepts. So I was personally disappointed to see it come back, to see this is kind of proving you can kind of look at all of the games and say, I guess they did come from Brooklyn. I guess they really do come from the real world. And I don't like that. I don't like that concept. However, I was surprised by how okay I was with it in the movie. Just seeing it in action. And I think a really, really big part of this is because it was all animated. It wasn't like live action Chris Pratt, Charlie Day getting sucked into a pipe or whatever. You know what I mean? It was still animated. All the people look like Mario and Luigi, basically. And so that still added kind of a level of fantasticalness to it that made it just easier to swallow. I'm more okay with it than I expected. So that's good. So that wasn't something that really brought down the movie or anything. So there you go. Next, worry. Just love worrying. Got a million of these. Illumination. We've covered this. Illumination, the studio responsible for Minions. The studio whose entire modus operandi is making cheap movies. Movies that are just cheap, on a budget. Don't take a lot of money, but they get a lot of butts in seats. And I personally feel that most of them are of a very low quality. They're kind of lowest common denominator. I'm sure if you disagree, that's fine. This is me. This is my opinion. Just kind of pandery. I don't like it. That was a humongous worry going into this. Firstly, because of the budget. I don't want a cheap Mario movie. I want a cool Mario movie with a lot of different set pieces and stuff. And you know what? That's what I got. We did not get a cheap Mario movie. This does not feel like a low budget thing. Maybe not quite as crazy and flashy as some animated movies. Maybe they still did it on a lower budget than the average. Possibly, a Pixar movie or something. But it didn't feel cheap. There were a lot of different environments, different set pieces and effects and big flashy things going on. It wasn't taking place on a city block or anything. So yeah, no disappointments there. Visually, it was a very nice spectacle, so that was great. And then the humor, that was a worry too. And there's another thing that was kind of, the fears were assuaged a little bit in the trailers. There was nothing particularly offensive to me, offensively unfunny, I should say, in the trailers. And yeah, the movie was basically that. It did not have that level of like pandery, recycled kids joke humor that makes me like just want to fall on the ground. It didn't have that. And that is exactly the kind of thing that ruins a movie for me. I cannot enjoy it. I try so hard, but I can't do it. But no, the humor was fine. I'd say like, it'd be nice if it was better. It would have been more enjoyable if it was just more funny to me personally, but like, there was some okay jokes. Most of the jokes were just kind of, okay, whatever, fine. And then we laughed a good number of times. There were some good jokes in there. So, on the upper end of the scale, at least. Cool. Another worry I had specifically because of the trailers, though, I was kind of afraid that like the whole movie would be about Mario just being a total doofus who's just bad at everything. And see, that's another thing people got on my case about. I get that the idea is it's like playing a game. You get better, and it's showing that Mario also did not start out being amazing like Mario is. And I get that. I was just afraid that it would focus on it a little bit too much, and that would be where because all of the humor in the trailers was just that. So I was afraid it would go a little too far, but you know what? That too, I was not disappointed. I was pleasantly surprised. It's a pretty okay amount. It may be a little more than I would have done, but it's fine. And in fact, at the start of the movie, he starts out like competent. He's like more competent than the average person when it comes to this kind of thing. He's got a knack for it, so it's more believable. It's not as forced. So again, there you go. Nice. And here's a big one. I was afraid that it would not be comfortable, the movie, with digging deep enough into Mario's history. And this is another thing that the trailers really helped out with. Like, even just in the trailers, you can see they're digging pretty deep here. But like, even then, I wasn't sure how deep it was gonna go. And like, before the movie, we're taking bets. We're like, how obscure are these references gonna get? And I expected kind of like still pretty surface level, but it went a lot deeper than I expected. There are some, like, I don't want to say obscure. It's not like a bunch of like Mario is missing references. It's like, but it is stuff that you have to play the games to get, the kinds of Easter eggs where someone who hasn't played these games won't even register it as an Easter egg. They'll just think it's a thing happening in the movie. But you've played the games and you're like, oh my gosh, like, visually a thing, or even just a concept. There are so many little references and Easter eggs that can only come from a person who has played these games. All these games, Mario, Donkey Kong, Mario Kart, all this stuff. They're familiar with it, and that makes me feel seen. It's easy, but it's effective, and it works on me. I loved all the references. That was probably the most enjoyable thing about the movie. So like, yeah, they were not scared to dig into Mario's history. And that just made it a much more enjoyable movie because of it. I was afraid it would just like, it would be like the sticker star thing where it's like, well, just go through like Super Mario World and like end there. It's like, but it didn't. It dug into all sorts of different parts of Mario's past, and it was great. Gosh, another thing that hits you right in the nostalgia bone is the music. Wow, it's definitely expected. Like, oh, they put Mario music in the Mario movie. Weird. No, I don't know. I think it's another one of those things where I just didn't expect so many themes to pop up. In like every scene, there's just another like favorite legendary Mario song, and hearing it in the big score, it's easy, but like, again, it just works. It's really good. So much music. There's Mario music when it's not like obligatory 80s music. That's the thing. It's a Hollywood movie, so you have to have some licensed music. And like, I don't know, feels like 80s music is like, that's the big one. And I'm not a really big fan. I mean, okay, I get that like with the Mario movie, 80s music fits a little bit better because it's the 80s, it's a Mario, like that. I get that that fits. I think that that's just already such a trope in the larger industry. You have to have like this many popular songs that everybody's gonna recognize so that you could put it on the soundtrack and you could sell the soundtrack. I don't know. Yeah, I guess I'm not a fan. Like hearing just Take On Me, just like, okay, cool, Take On Me's in this movie. It's a little bit awkward, like just switching back and forth. From one scene, it's cool Mario music. From the other, it's Take On Me. It doesn't really fit, in my opinion, but it's another one of those things that's formulaic, but fairly inoffensive. Thing is about references, they're great, they make me feel nice, but they don't automatically make a movie good. I feel strongly about that. So I do want to talk about just the overall quality of the movie, the way that I personally see it. Well, from the start, same thing with the Sonic movie, where even just seeing these characters so like realistically rendered up on the big screen, that alone has like a value to it, that tickles it just tickles my heartstrings or whatever. It speaks to the child tucked deep down inside of me. It's kind of surreal that after all these years, I'm watching a Mario movie in the theater. Very, very strange. And I would say that as a Mario adaptation, this movie mostly succeeds. It incorporates so much of the Mario canon, I guess for lack of a better word, which is, Mario is quite abstract and surreal. And so, that's one reason we were like, how do you make that into a movie? But I'd say they did a pretty darn good job. They took all that and they made a consistent world with, its own rules and stuff. And again, as we saw in, the trailers, incorporating stuff like power-ups and they do it in a pretty good way, And, sometimes it's, a little bit awkward. It's a little strange. It's that's really how this world works. A little weird, but it's the Mario movie. So there you go. It's a Mario movie. There you go. The most important thing was making this movie as Mario as it can be. So it works, all of the classic bad video game adaptations are things that they just don't really pull from the games that much. And they try to fit it into the real world or just make it into its weird own thing. This doesn't do that. This is a Mario movie through and through. And we knew it would be, especially after the trailers. You got Miyamoto working on it, Nintendo working on it. You've got all the executives of Nintendo are all in the credits and everything. So they made sure. They're no, this was a hands-on adaptation. This is straight from the horses' mouths or whatever. And it works. And the plot is pretty basic, but again, it's the Mario movie. It works to deliver the story that a Mario movie needs to deliver with the Bowser and the Peach and incorporating the DK and all that stuff. Pacing is a little bit wonky sometimes. There's one or two scenes where you're that was kind of weird. Most of it is very Mario related, but then there's one kind of near the beginning where it's just kind of this is just kind of a thing. I don't really know why this is happening. Not a big deal though. It's a Mario movie. I'm just gonna keep saying that. There's no big twists and turns. There's no big surprises. It's all pretty predictable. It plays out exactly the way that you'd want. But what other way should a Mario movie play out than the way a Mario movie should play out? I would say this might end up being the thing that gets people mad at me. I do still have pretty big problems with the casting. To me, this feels like one of those projects where they just kind of had a bunch of celebrities in mind and they kind of just gave them the roles without making them really audition for it. And obviously I could be totally wrong there. It's kind of the vibe that I get. Some of these are just kind of like Cranky Kong. Fred Armisen. I love Fred Armisen. I think he's really funny. He just wasn't a good Cranky Kong. He was just kind of doing a weird, it didn't sound like an old monkey guy. I don't know. It just didn't work for me. And it didn't seem to fit, not even just what I know of the character, but just the character I'm seeing on screen. It's just not doing it for me. It's not as funny as it could be. And then Chris Pratt, I know a lot of people have come around on it now that they've seen the movie. They're no, it was good after all. I'm still really not a fan. I feel I don't know. I feel he was miscast and a lot of people are but he's done lots of voice work. And it's that's not the point though. I've seen him do voice work. Lego Movie is one of my favorite movies ever. He can do good voice work. I just kind of feel he didn't do a great job here. And I don't know if that was just him not matching the role or him just not bringing his A game. I really don't know. But Mario falls flat for me. He just feels kind of dull. He's so colorful and he's surrounded by all these colorful characters, and he's just doesn't have that energy, that screen presence that I feel like he should have. There's just something just kind of flat about it. Chris Pratt also will just kind of sometimes randomly bring in a little bit of the Italian accent, just kind of, it does not work. He should have just left that out completely, because it's just, I don't know, it just feels awkward. I don't, and then Charlie Day did a perfectly fine Luigi. And it's one of the things here is that repeat viewings are definitely going to help, and if they make more movies, that's going to help, because the movie versions of these characters are really just kind of their own thing. Jack Black as Bowser, he did a good movie Bowser. I still personally wish they had pitched him down. I feel like Bowser needs to have this grumbly kind of voice, but when he goes up, he really does just sound like Jack Black. A little bit disappointing, but at the same time, it's movie Bowser. He's kind of his own thing. Movie Peach is nothing like Game Peach, and I knew they would make some changes. I wish that there was just a hint of the original Peach in there somewhere, but this Peach is not at all Game Peach. This is movie Peach. She's a completely different person. So yeah, it's okay. I think one problem I had with the movie is I don't know. I don't know if some of it is just kind of flat script writing, or sometimes when a character feels miscast and they're not really giving a lot of energy in the moment, but then the animators kind of have to overcompensate, and so the characters are animating more than the voice is speaking, and there's kind of a weird disconnect. And I don't know if this is just a me thing, but I feel like it happens a lot in other movies too. I've observed it. If I'm I feel like this person was not right for the role, and there's just this weird kind of uncanny disconnect between what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing. Maybe I'm just nitpicking at this point, but there were just a few scenes that felt a little weird. I felt like they should have gone a little bit more smoothly. It just felt a little bit strange. However, let's just shut up, Arlo. Let's put all this behind us now. Overall, it's a perfectly good movie. I think it could have been better. I think if Illumination wasn't doing it, it could have been better. Could have been a lot better. I do think Mario deserves better. I think Mario is Mario. He deserves Pixar levels of quality. This was not quite that. But it was not terrible. It was not offensively bad. The humor didn't make me cringe to death. It was absolutely packed with references and stuff for the people who have played the games. It works as a really good adaptation of Mario. Overall, it's a winner. I had fun with it. We all had fun with it. And the real test is the credits roll, and I'm oh, nuts. I could have watched more of that. I wish it kept going. I would watch another Mario movie. I'd watch Mario movie 2 today. And that's your sign of success right there. It's enjoyable. It's just enjoyable entertainment. They did it. They did it. They even got Arlo. Arlo is such a snob, and they got him. That's the seal of quality right there. The didn't make Arlo cringe seal of quality. The highest mark in the world. Forget the Academy Awards. This is an animated kids movie that Arlo actually enjoyed. Must be pretty great, because that guy... Anyway, I will say, I think it's a little bit silly that so many people are getting mad at critics for not liking it as much. Because, I don't know. I feel I'm trying to look at the movie more objectively. I really can, at the end of the day, only look at it from my perspective of a fan. I feel like if I didn't have this connection with Mario, this decades-long history with him and his games, and if I wasn't catching all these references and stuff, would not have enjoyed it nearly as much. It's a fine movie. I think fine. Inoffensive. Maybe a little bit boring if you're not connected with them. So I completely get a critic who's I'm not a Mario fan, I'm just watching a movie. Any movie is supposed to stand on its own merits. I don't know how well this movie does. I think it's probably okay. But like, so much of the enjoyment is that connection. So like, yeah, like, don't get mad at people for not liking it. Like, they're not even, oh, you just hate fun. Like, no, they're just trying to watch a movie without all the prior knowledge. It's supposed to work as a movie on its own. Anyway, could go on about that. This Mario fan, though, he liked it. And that's it. That's it. The Mario movie ended up being good. Wow, what a time to be alive. We got a Mario movie now. It's just like, it's just a part of history. That's pretty cool. What do you think about it? Tell me down in the comments. You know, actually, I have one more thing I want to say. It's funny. It's not related to the movie itself, but it's a teaser spoiler at the beginning for a new Illumination movie, and it does this big epic thing where it's like, Illumination. It's like a history. They brought you Despicable Me, Minions, Despicable Me 2, Secret Life of Pets. They're going over all of Illumination history, and it all builds up to the new movie, which is about ducks. It's about ducks. We just get a teaser, and it's like ducks flying, and it's called Migration. And then it's not even like a full trailer. It's like 2 clips of ducks, and it's like, we're doing a movie about ducks. Okay, I mean, like, I don't know. Why did you build up like that? Is this like a case of like having to overdo it because you realize your movie might look a little bit boring? So you're trying to like build it up to get people more excited? It did not work. The build up, the payoff was not worth it. I like ducks. Don't get me wrong, but no, I don't know. We were all laughing at that because it just felt kind of funny. But that's it. That's the Mario movie review. I'll catch you at the review for the next Mario movie in 2037. See you then.